Hello.
We're just going commercials.
We're going commercials.
No in.
Hello, and welcome back to CKZ. I'm Kent, and Zach and Caitlin are here with me tonight.
Yeah.
We are so excited to be back. It's
that was a long week.
Wild
it
one.
seemed like we were gone forever.
Yeah,
I
it
was
was a
ready.
We're supposed to be back weekly, and yeah, it was a long week. Obviously, we've got some new stuff going on. Brian, our producer's back, and a whole lot of new buttons and all sorts of things. It's crazy. We do this show all the time, and we have yet to fire this show up without a hitch.
We should be recording before the show starts situation
just to show the struggle.
Yeah.
You think we curse a lot on the show?
Yeah.
Oh fuck.
Well, welcome back. We are so excited that you are here. We want to thank you for joining us last night for the State of the State address. Did you guys happen to catch that, Zach? I know you were commenting, Caitlin. How'd that go for you? What did you think about it?
I was in there for a good portion of it. I wanted to make sure I'd catch the annual 2.5 minutes of cannabis.
Yeah,
it was a little bit longer than most years.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I missed. I complained the whole time about, I was like, I wish there was forensic and debate etiquette where you save applause until at least the subject's over. I mean, it was almost an hour long, so half of that was
there's a lot of
interruption for applause
and circumstance for
we need
governor's
somebody
speech.
with video editing skills to handle the cutting out of all the applause. But you guys can't complain about this because you'll also sit there and watch a football game for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and there's 20 minutes of actual gameplay in there.
Touche.
Absolutely. Heidi and Liam say hi. We say hi back. Thanks for being here. Hey, Greg, thanks for stopping by. We'll get into Dodge City here in just a little bit.
Dodge City.
Yeah,
it is the Wild West.
We have an absolute wild show for you guys tonight. Jam-packed. Lots of stuff. Hi, Heidi. How are you? Jam-packed, full of so many things. We had to push our interview with Janene Radke back. Things just came up and it didn't quite work out the way we wanted to.
Good things come to those who wait, and that's going to be a
good thing.
one.
Great things come to those who wait.
Great interview. I want to make sure we do it right, and nobody's in a rush or anything like that. We want to have a good long conversation on that.
Hey, Whitney.
Hey.
We got Megan Yardley stopping by. Hey,
boy,
thanks for
Megan
swinging in.
Us.
All the way from Eastern Kansas. We appreciate you being by.
The other side of the state watching now.
If I remember correctly, I think there was an engagement and a baby announcement.
Oh, yeah.
So congrats on all that.
Congratulations.
So we're going to cover some of the things that happened in the new session. Kansas session in the State House and Senate. We also had the State of the State address last night. We'll be touching on that a little bit tonight. We have, what else do we have, guys, going on locally for these folks tonight?
Let's see, we got the drop
United
by
Methodist
Art.
Church, and we got some events and a whole bunch of other things. So again, we want to thank you so much for being here tonight and joining us.
Tonight. Not events,
so many
topics.
Events, topics tonight.
We'll be going through the topics for sure.
All night long. We do want to make sure that you are following and subscribing to the show. Caitlin, there was a couple of ways
yes,
that we talked about last week.
without visualizing, I don't know how I'll describe this. Oh, you've got it. There you go. So
Right there.
if you go to
Yes.
your feed, and I think it's the three little dots there, and select your favorites. There's a couple different ways to do it, depending on what device you're using. There you go.
Yeah, make sure you're there commenting, liking things, so that way we show up in your feed.
If you get us on the favorites, then you see
It shows up
everything
in your
that comes
timeline.
up. It'll give it to you on purpose instead of just hit or miss. Sometimes you miss the doozies.
Right. Hey, Desiree, thanks for dropping
Hey.
in.
Sister.
Just engaged, but baby
Yay,
Megan's
Megan.
hopefully in the future, right?
Yeah.
Megan would be a great mom. Anyway, expectations, right? Putting those out there. But anyway, so if you like what you see, you want to keep us in the game, swing by buymeacoffee.com/CKZ show and help us out. You know, this takes a lot of time, a lot of effort. We want to be able to bring more to you guys and kind of go from there. So anyway, Zach, you want to kick us off with what's going on around Garden City in the area this week?
We got drop by art going on. That's going to be December 10th, 17th, January 14th, the 28th. Every Saturday, there's a drop by art event. It's the perfect opportunity for families to bond while making art. You can choose either drop in the gallery from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. to participate in person, or drop by and pick up your free bag of take-home art. You can find more details at the Garden City Arts Facebook page. So yeah, you just swing by, you pick it up, you get all the art supplies that you need, and if you want to hang out, make some friends. It looks like coming up, it's going to be the 28th this Saturday, so they're doing gemstones and watercolor. That'll be fun. So yeah, even if you don't have time to hang out, just grab a bag. It's fun for the whole family. Art is something that everybody can get into, and everybody should. Absolutely.
It's really awesome when we have quite a collection of some of the stuff that you don't use in the bags, and so we've got like leftover modeling clay sometimes, or just another set of crayons, or
I was about to say I don't really make
of
art,
paint, or
I think this counts.
It's a good time.
Some form of art. I think it's not good art, but we're here. We're trying.
You're trying. So we don't have many events happening in the Garden City area this week and weekend. Check out the community for updates from the Finney County Library.
There's always something going on at the library.
Yeah. They had events going on tonight, and I think every night of the week. So definitely check them out online. Zach, where do you find the community calendar? What's a good place?
I searched Finney County calendar, and I think it was put up through the tourist convention.
Okay, Finney County Convention and Tourism.
They have a way that you can just add it to your Google or Apple calendar, and so I just added it right onto it, and so I get all the events with all my other family stuff.
Nice.
Easy, sleek. That's awesome. Stay in touch with the community. Absolutely.
It's not usually on Garden to be up on the technology, but we got it going there. Whoops, that was the wrong lever.
Liam, we miss you too, buddy. Liam, it's old Steve-O, a good friend of ours, and Heidi. They live out on Eastern Kansas as well. We want to thank you so much for joining in tonight and being here.
Man, I saw a Facebook post from KSN this week, and it said, I don't even remember what the topic was because it was so irrelevant. They said Western Kansas, and it was Great Bend. I was like, Great Bend, does it even break the Western
Western just
hemisphere?
talking about that in the Wichita area. It's like, I guess it is west of where you're at in Eastern Kansas, but to us, that's
like on the west side of town of dead center Kansas, maybe.
Yeah. I was talking about that just today too, as well, with a guy, and he says it's west of Salina. Everything west of Salina is Western Kansas.
That's
so Russell,
pretty far
Hayes,
east.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I'm like, that's like 3 hours away.
Yeah.
So
it just goes
on
to show that Topeka doesn't give us much thought.
No, they don't. So that's why we're here, and that's why CKZ exists, is so we can kind of have the personal conversations about the world as we see it. And one of those tonight is here in Garden City, the First United Methodist Church.
Oh man, I'm not even religious, and this one had me fired up.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are going on inside and outside of what's going on in the First United Methodist Church. What's going on with the United Methodist Church as a whole, as a group across the world. It's not just here in Garden City. It's in every state, every region, anywhere. And where this where this current conversation comes from is Africa, actually. Spurred the conversation that we're about to have. So here we are in little Garden City, Kansas, and it's hit us here at home. So we're gonna have a conversation about it this evening. So back in, I think it was 1973. The Book of Discipline is what Methodists call it, was created and formed. And basically in the Book of Discipline, it's a pretty traditional Christian value book on doctrine, on how they have their processes for the churches, who can be pastors, bishops, who can be married, what it takes to be a member, just everything about how the church is operated, run, and what is being taught to the congregation. So 1973, the Book of Discipline is created. In Africa, they don't have the same laws around your choice of sexuality, whether you be gay, straight, whatever you're into. In Africa, it's illegal. And so in the Methodist Church, they've struggled with the book. Here recently, the Methodist Church has kind of gotten more relaxed with some of the laws in the Book of Discipline. And some congregations have decided that, hey, we're going to marry gay couples in this church. We're going to, not only are we, in the Methodist Church as it is now, you can be a pastor or a bishop and be gay, but you cannot preach. You can't actually preach to the congregation. You can't marry people in the congregation. So some of these churches said, "Nah, we're going to be more progressive and keep up with the times and do what we want to do." And so the church kind of relaxed on it and introduced, I think it was like 3 separate plans. I'm drawing a blank on what all 3. One was a conservative or centrist plan, and then a traditional plan are the 2 that I know most about. So most of the churches have been operating okay under this centrist plan, where they'll allow the gay marriages in the church, and they'll allow gay clergy in the church, and so on. I'm reading a comment here by Whitney Buckman. I'm sorry, it's legal in some African countries, death sentence in other African countries. How does
that pertain to Garden City and the Methodist
So
Church?
It's United Methodist as Church as a whole. So what happened was, in the African countries, they said, nope, we're not going to do that. We can't be progressive and be associated with that. And so they split. So other congregations said, hey, what are they doing there? Maybe we want to do that too. And essentially what happened from that spurred the Global Methodist Church. And there are other avenues as well. The First United Methodist Church here in Garden City has not made exactly clear what their direction after leaving.
And this is the one on Maine and Kansas there?
This is the big church on Maine and Kansas.
Okay.
And here is a letter that does mention that the Global Methodist Church would be something that they could look at. Doesn't mean they're necessarily going to vote to join the Global Methodist Church, but I think it's a good thing for us to talk about, as it does affect our community and other citizens in it. And there are a lot of names that are signed to that letter as well. And I think at some point, if it does get bigger, if it is more pushed towards like the Global Methodist and the conservative, and we're pushing that population out, not being welcoming to a certain population in our community. We need to speak louder and do more things about it. But
so they had a vote, right?
They did have a vote. So what the vote on this, the first step to disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church is to hold a test vote in your congregation. In that test vote, they have to secure 2/3 of majority of the members, voting members in the church, to have an official vote where the district manager, I understand, comes in and they hold an official vote. And at that time, if it wins, they can disaffiliate from the United Methodist Church itself. They'll have to pay some dues to disaffiliate. Along with it, I believe it was $145,000 for the church and 3 patronages, and then they can do what they want.
So just
now,
to be
does that mean they
crystal
go
clear,
and join the Global Methodist Church as a possibility was outlined in the letter? That is, do they become a Presbyterian congregation? They could do that. They could become Baptists. They can do whatever they want after leaving the United Methodist Church.
So just to be crystal clear here, this church is proposing having a vote, or they did have a test vote, to see if they were willing to leave the current version of Methodist Church that they're currently in, to join a new one that came up because the current one has become more accepting of gay marriage. And there is a sect of Methodists that do not want that change. And there is a sect within the Methodist Church here in Garden City that do not want that change and are trying to vote it so that gay weddings and whatnot will not happen in the church on Kansas and Maine. Correct? Am I understanding
from
this
the
correctly?
from the letter that was sent out?
Yeah, the letter
and
is
I'm going to read that letter
whitewashed.
I'm going to read that letter now so you have a better understanding. So for 140 years, the Methodist Church has faithfully served the Garden City community. We are a great church family with many good things happening. With our area's continued growth and demographics, the church has an even greater opportunity to be the hands of Jesus Christ. However, there are things happening in the greater denomination we believe will bring harm to this mission. So there alone,
But they're not
about
willing to come out and
clergy.
say what things they think will bring harm. There are things.
There are things.
But the thing is gay people existing.
Yes, and the fact that they mention that one viable option for them after disaffiliating would be the Global Methodist Church, which is an ultra-conservative, they call themselves traditionalists, where they don't welcome gay clergy. Yeah, is it? It's pretty gross to me. I don't like the notion of it.
Does the Book of Discipline discuss women in the ministry?
I want to invite all of you to the Church of Spider-Man, where we believe if you have the power, you have the responsibility to do the right thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. There's no meetings. There's no... That's it.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And yeah, Whitney, we're right with you. It got us too. Fat Tony, yeah. Western Kansas by 4 miles. That's good.
By 4 miles, you actually did the Thank you for looking that up. I appreciate it. The semantics matter.
Yeah, it does. Whitney does say that it does mention women. They have updated it over the years. They keep it pretty updated, and I think that they want to remain pretty progressive. Well, that's one of the things
about the Methodists is they're usually the more progressive of the
that's
Christians.
That's what this.
At least at one point.
It surprised me because also am I wrong, or were a lot of Methodist churches standing with the Vote No campaign all over Kansas?
Well, there have been Cimarron and Jetmore have both disaffiliated already with United Methodist Church, and they have
go for it.
They have joined the Global Methodist congregation.
So we didn't even get to the bigger point. Is these what is it? A dozen people or so, 15 people that signed this letter They didn't only sign this letter. They put a veiled threat in there of if they don't make this change. I say we. I'm an atheist. I don't give a shit about any of this. It doesn't pertain to me. But if they do choose to stay and accept gay people, these rich people that donate every Sunday are going to quit. And that's their threat of if you're not willing to do it, you can fuck off with your religion and shit. We're gonna go start our own church with blackjack and hookers.
That's gonna swing both ways, and they're gonna lose tithes over it. But the first we were talking about it as a family, and my oldest son,
these are the people that go
old,
to the religion where the guy said he created all of them in his image and he loves all of them equally. I'm just saying that's.
Yeah, I'm not. I don't know the Bible as well as Zach does, and I'm ashamed to admit that because I grew up in the religion, and I'm a professing. I'm actually a member of the Methodist Church.
Most Christians don't.
Got married there. I sang in the youth choir, and this is pretty tough. But Zach, how many verses about gay, queer, lesbian?
Depends. When are we talking? Because prior to 1964, the word homosexual didn't exist within the Bible. It was introduced at that point in time by the Catholic Church, and it was replacing the word pedophile more often than not. Homosexual was replacing the word pedophile. Now, why did the Catholic Church want to remove the word pedophile from the Bible? Oh, because they had a huge problem with it and with their priests, and continue to do so. And that's not their primary concern because gay people are existing because they're happy.
I also have a question. If this, is this the only Methodist church in town?
It is.
Okay, and so then there are several also Cimarron and Dodge or whatever, and they've disaffiliated. They're effectively snatching the denomination away from anyone else in town who upholds that denomination. And so then what? Do you guys have to change denominations to, are those people going to travel elsewhere?
Right. Yeah.
It's such a stand.
It is a stand. And I want to give a shout out to Trinity Lutheran Church. They did recently have a gay preacher there in a Trinity Lutheran Church. It was pretty Orthodox church. Pastor Tony, shout out to you. Aloha, brother. I know you're living it up. And I know you watch us, and he calls us disruptors, and he loves us.
Both my girls did preschool there, and they were off. They treated us great.
That's probably the other Lutheran. St. James is
Trinity Lutheran.
Oh, I'm sorry. I said Trinity Lutheran. I meant St. James.
Okay.
I meant St. James.
Man,
church.
Would you guys get your tax-exempt buildings figured out? Good God.
Yeah, they're everywhere. And so, moving on, we do want to continue to talk about this. Maybe we'll land an interview with one of the church members that's a part of the Stay UMC movement that's going on down there, and learning a little bit more about the religion itself, and where they're going and what he envisions. So I'm hoping that we can confirm that next week for you guys, why it's still fresh and still ongoing in the community. Before we move on to our next topic, which is taught on Topeka, I'd like to have a word from our sponsor this week. Go ahead. Yay! I'm going to thank Whitney for being in the comments tonight.
I can say personally that I've used Whitney's services, and he's absolutely worth every penny. He teaches a way to understand your dogs. He's more teaching you than he is the dogs, because it's a method of understanding their behaviors and how to manipulate those behaviors to work in a way that you want instead of punishing them. He's not the type of person to teach you how to rub their nose in anything or whatever. That's not an effective manner. And
Yeah.
so yeah, Whitney's fantastic.
Yeah. Check him out on Facebook, YouTube. Buckman Best Behaviors.
Beast,
And,
right?
No,
No,
it's
I'm
Buckman
like, I'm
Best.
reading
It
it.
used to be Bestial. It used to be Bestial, and he changed it because everybody said
Bestial.
Bestial. Yeah. So now it's Buckman Best Behaviors. Everybody, I think, in town knows him. He's he was in zoology and worked in zoos, and he works with more than just dogs and cats, parrots, lizards, whatever you've got. Whitney's got something to help you make life comfortable for you and fabulous for everybody.
Yeah, whatever you got. If you got a tiger, give him a call. Yeah, he'll come.
Yeah, he'll train a tiger. He'll train a tiger.
They found Carol Baskin's husband, y'all. Sorry.
They found Carol Baskin.
No. Apparently that was it's a regurgitated rumor. Like, I guess it was popular a couple years ago, and then it took off again, and she had to make a statement.
It works. I saw a parody about it, so that reminded me.
Whitney's not so sure about a tiger. But I can envision them doing the Phil Collins drum roll, "Thank You, The Hangover," and a tiger, and boop 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 boop.
Right.
Mike Tyson. Yeah, anyway. So news from the state capitol this week.
Yeah. So
what's going on?
All right. Back in August, voters had to show up to the polls to vote on an amendment regarding abortion across the state, and I think a lot of us called this sort of aggressively still pursuing, restricting women and their medical decisions. And so there's a bill, Senate Bill 65, restricts or bans abortion at a local level. So an act concerning abortion authorizing cities and counties to enact local laws more stringent than the state law regarding regulation of abortion. So Kansas overwhelmingly said, we don't want to outlaw abortions, and then now they want to allow the smaller communities within the state who already said we don't want this.
Overwhelmingly said no, we don't want that, and so then the legislators said yes, we will respect the wishes of our constituents, and went quietly into the night, and we never heard from them again. Somewhere,
like a theme around
some
here.
reality, that's how it went.
It's increasingly more frustrating how often it comes out that most Kansans are aligned on issues specifically like this. Yeah. Also other issues that we will be bringing up today. And our legislators who we voted in apparently don't understand that we should be voting on these things according to.
I believe it was episode 7 where I called it when we were celebrating our win, and I said, guys, these guys have millions of dollars in their coffers and in their reserves. This isn't the end. They're not going to just quit. And so we called it here on the CKZ show that there would be more, and it absolutely is never going to stop. It's an endless battle because Republicans exist and right-wingers, extreme right-wingers, want the Christian Taliban to rule over everyone. They don't care what your beliefs are. They care what their beliefs are, and they believe you are beholden to those beliefs.
Yeah. And what you're seeing on screen is who's responsible for this bill. And, it was introduced by Senator Chase Blasey, who is a rookie. Is that what you call him? He's a first-year senator. So if you recognize some of those names, Senator Mike Thompson, Senator Rick Cluse, Senator Cindy Holschler, Jeff Longbean, Mike Peterson, Ronald Rickman. Ask them why they're willing to put our tax dollars up into litigation on something that has already been decided and is law of the land.
It actually,
what'll happen
it blew their mind to consider giving children free school lunches. It blew their mind. Feeding these kids is absolutely out of the question to these people. But they have to be born. We don't care about them once they're born, but they have to be.
And we don't have to hyperbolize what kinds of situations this puts women in or their unborn.
There's 3 stories a day on the news about how horrible of a situation this can end up being for women, from ectopic pregnancies and actual medical emergencies to just being down and out and in the worst situation of your life and getting terrible news, like you just got a financial burden that you can't afford, and it doesn't matter what the story is, because it's nobody's business, male, female, or anything in between. It's none of your business unless it's you personally and your doctor. That's it. Sorry, getting off the soapbox. I'll create a podcast or something.
Yeah, it's so irritating. And like Whitney said, Blasey wasn't even elected in. He was appointed. He was appointed to his position, and here we have an unelected official determining, law and entering bills. Wasting our time.
Does that mean he was? Okay, so does that mean there wasn't anyone in a position that he was appointed to? Like an election happened, a seat was left unfilled, and then that's how it can work here. So I just wondered how that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
He was appointed. Yeah.
These things happen so easily and right under our noses when we don't. It's less about the voters voting in that situation, and it's more that there are lots of seats that are open, and we don't realize that these things can be ran for, and that an election would have to occur for these seats.
I don't know what legal reasons there could possibly be, because if we've learned anything here in Garden City is you can literally plead guilty to a crime and not have to step down. Yeah. So it must have been pretty bad.
Yeah. So what else do we have our sights on in Topeka, Zach? House Bill 2013. What's that about?
Oh, I don't know, because I didn't go over it before the show.
So what it does is it establishes a runoff election if a statewide candidate doesn't receive 50% of the vote. The bill reads similar to what's going on in Georgia, the Georgia law, where they recently had a bunch of runoff elections. For reference, and those elections cost taxpayers an estimated $75 million.
I'm not even opposed to runoff elections. It's just that this doesn't make sense when, you can't just implement something like that when candidates haven't mostly received 50% of the votes, because it's a plurality in electoral situations. So now they're just going to deem that somebody has to have 50% of the vote, and if they don't, it's difficult enough for people to make sure that they are at the ballots when our national or local elections come around each time, and we're we plan for those things to happen. So for another election, wouldn't the intention be that there are less people voting? That how many times are you doing in another election? What happens if the second time nobody gets 50%?
The negative campaigning that we're subjected to, the depression that it causes amongst people, the discord online, the division. There's so many things that go into it. And what do you feel about it, Zach? This is a real interest to me, and I'll get to why here in a moment. But what does that make you think about hearing about the runoff election?
Here's what I think. I think, have we had a recent election where it became a problem, where there was a serious issue, where a candidate was winning an election with 30% of the vote or something like that, where they caused a lot of problems? No.
But do you like what they're trying to fix? They want more than 50% of a vote for a candidate to win. So, that's a majority.
Bill. It's a waste of time bill. There hasn't been a problem with this. It's not a frequent problem that occurs. It's like when they're trying to bring an anti-trans bill to the floor. There's not a problem with transgenders using bathrooms and stuff like that. It's a waste of time bill. They refuse to bring marijuana and Medicaid expansion to the Senate floor. They refuse to discuss it, even though both topics have high 70s in a percentage of approval from Kansans. So why are we wasting time even talking about this? Something that can cost Kansans an extra $75 million in taxes. Well, we don't have the money to fund our foster care system. We don't have the money to fund our schools properly. We are one of the lowest paid states in the country for teacher pay. We are missing over 1,200 teachers in this state right now. We have substitutes teaching full time, and they can't even get benefits. But we're wasting time. Already the session just started.
I feel like that's what session's full of right now. Are these?
So,
I don't want to have to be talking about abortion again. We decided.
Yeah.
When we have an election where it causes a major problem, let's have a discussion about it.
I love the idea that a supermajority votes for a candidate, and it's not. We can start eliminating redlining and things like that with it. So I would interject single choice voting, which is ranked choice voting, and rank the vote. You go once, you automatically have that runoff in the vote tally. You pick who you want, and you move on down the road. And we don't have all this extra to do. It's extremely cheap and easy, and it keeps voters engaged, and it eliminates a lot of that negative campaigning and other things. And I could go on, but I won't. But that's what this bill makes me think of, is we're trying to accomplish the same goal in a stupid, crazy, expensive way.
Yeah. You're not wrong. If the options are this or ranked choice voting, sure, we should go with ranked choice voting. It's an obvious solution. It gets the candidate to 50% in every election, no matter what. So ranked choice would be a baby step in a good direction. It would attempt to fix a small problem that could potentially be an issue at some point somewhere in the future that might affect an election for 3 days.
Lightning's going to strike at some point.
Greg asked a good question. I think it was, can a citizen get anything on the ballot? How can the common people get something on the ballot? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think you have to be sponsored.
You have to elect your senator, and then you have to be able to get the ear of that senator and be able to get him to look over a bill that you put together, and then that bill he'll present it to a committee, and so you more or less have to buy a senator to get something on the ballot, and it's expensive chess.
It is.
Cecil O'Brate can do stuff like that. Anybody watching this show? Probably not. Not really.
That's how they make their money. That starts with the lobbyists, and they go and they start giving speeches and getting paid for this and paid for that, and next thing
every once in a while you get
a bill,
a representative that actually cares, and you can actually contact them, and they'll hear you out and consider it, but those are few and far between.
And so the next bill is House Bill 2056 that we.
Another bullshit bill. Is that what we're about to talk about?
Another bullshit bill.
It abolishes the 3-day grace period for mail-in ballots, affecting thousands of Kansas voters. Currently, mail-in ballots received and postmarked on or before Election Day are counted for 3 days after the election. Again, a baby step in a good direction. If we're trying to do something good, sure. Yeah, every vote should count. It should just be a given. If you voted and they can't prove that you voted illegally in a timely manner, it should just count. But again, we have the Republicans who hate voting and hate fair have a supermajority, and so. Is this bill going to get voted in? No, it's a dead on the water bill. It is.
These people are getting paid to write this and then push it through session. How are these the cream of the crop when we have spoken very clearly about what we want? Like, why? Why is this?
Well.
I mean, like, what?
I misspoke. It's not a dead on the water bill because the Republicans are presenting it. It's already your vote counts 3 days after, and they're voting to abolish that. It's always something different when you go in.
But
last time I went and voted, they asked me to say my name out loud, and I said I'm not required to do that, and they said yes you are. In order to vote, you have to say your name out loud. I'm like, what if I was mute or deaf or I gave you my ID. Give me my ballot. Why are we having a discussion about this? So they're always adding something new in there, and it's one of those things that I thought about it, and I'm like, man, I could fight this and make a big scene, but there's not even a lawyer in our area that would be willing to take on a case like that, especially over something so minuscule. It's just one more annoyance for them to implement, and it's because the lady that runs my voting area is very right wing, and just she got a little bit of power and it went to her head.
Yeah. So there you have. There's been over 20 bills that have been introduced in regards to voting. It's a hot topic for Republicans this session. These two have made it to the floor for discussion. House Bill 2013, House Bill 2056. Please write your congressmen and senators and ask them to vote no on these bills that we believe are not good.
Yeah.
For you, for me.
But the next one, Caitlin, this next one's a good one.
Yeah, I think this was in the State of the State address. Back to school tax holiday. Oh, it'll be a bill, right? That's what. Yeah. So back to school.
She's proposing it.
Holiday grants tax-free shopping for school supplies, clothing, and other school-related items. I believe there's like
teachers.
They're proposing a 3-day window. Yes.
Yeah.
Parent, any stakeholders, basically. So I like that it's clothing for schools. They really, like the supplies. Other school-related items can mean like your art supplies that you need for classrooms, like that. So they've really broadened the language on what qualifies for that. The discussions to begin are related to when, where, and how many days to allot for, and what will qualify. So I think we've seen different things there. So that would be awesome. I think I don't know that any of us would. It'll be hard around here because we have a lot of people who come into our station. So if our community, if it is 3 days, that would be our community plus the outside communities that are coming in. So that might be. But hopefully we can plan for that kind of thing. And
I just want to comment on Tony's comment here. I know I comment on Republicans a lot. It's because they have the supermajority in my state, and I have a Democratic governor without a backbone. So I do rail on Republicans a lot. But I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a fan of Democrats. I think they speak well intentioned and then do nothing a lot. And so I'll at least appreciate a Republican saying what they want to do and then doing it, even though I vehemently disagree with what they want to do. Democrats will say they want to do the right thing and then not try and do the right thing. But again, the Republicans have a supermajority in the state and can do whatever they want. Any problem we have in this state that can be solved, they have the ability to solve it or keep it from happening.
I think that politicians, I don't know about listening. That's a great question. But certainly they are, I can't imagine that they're fully unaware of the discussions that are occurring, especially since Kelly can bring it to the State of the State address and make sure to tell us, that most Kansans, most meaning like well above 50%, in the 80%, 78 to 80% range, already polling on these issues or trying to have conversations about these issues, and them being completely ignored. So we don't have the money to show them
on this school tax holiday thing. Has anybody heard of the time span for it? Because if it needs to be like the entire month of August at least.
I was gonna say I saw something. I think it must have been Kelly discussing it after the State of the State address. I think she's given a couple interviews, and it was like a proposed 3-day. I think that's too short.
See, the stores aren't gonna have the supplies for that. I've worked retail for years. You don't control whether you get enough notebooks and pencils in for the specific week or whatever it is. And if it's 3 days, it's going to be over a weekend. Walmart and Target are going to get absolutely flooded. They're going to be completely out. In the first day, it's going to be chaos. It needs to be for the entire month if you're going to do it. Or just make it so that you can write school supplies off on your taxes. Simple.
Yeah.
If you're claiming a child and you bought pencils, you don't pay tax on the fucking pencils. Why don't we make everything so goddamn complicated?
But I think it's called axe to tax. Is that not the same thing?
It is. Well, that's the
okay.
thing.
So
Well, that's also on the groceries. That's
we
she's
didn't
trying
have
to
this
make
on the
that
list.
permanent, which
Right.
is a good idea.
She's trying to make sure that so the tax, like the blah blah blah, it would run out in 25. So she wants to make it effective immediately, and that would be grocery taxes, feminine hygiene product taxes, and something else.
Yeah, and she doesn't want it to sunset, and it's supposed to sunset in 2025, I think. And I think the Republicans want it to sunset like that because that gives them another opportunity to take over the governorship and claim credit for it.
Sure. Yeah, and it's ridiculous that we pay tax on food, guys. I mean,
it's gonna be miserable, Sarah. I'm so sorry for you guys that are working in retail because you're going to be yelled at by so many people that are frustrated.
Yeah, but it's
all to save what, $20 in tax?
Don't they get slammed anyway for school supplies? I mean,
yes,
I don't
absolutely.
necessarily
and it's spread out over. I don't necessarily spread out over 2 months.
Buying, there's.
You have to remember how many small communities are surrounding us as well with all of the districts, and we, like 75% of our commerce in this community isn't from us. So
true.
And how much of a pain in the butt?
Be just a 3-day weekend or
how much of a pain in the butt is that going to be over 3 days for all of the retail stores to have to go figure out which specific items not to charge tax on?
Also,
and all
the devices when you're the POS systems and stuff. It's
not like you have control over those things. It's all corporate controlled. It's going to be a nightmare,
watching us and listening to us because we've had some great ideas here tonight. To clip our video and send it in to Senator Dole and make him watch it 100,000 times and stand on the floor and argue. Tax write-off. We don't need days.
Yeah, just write it off the taxes.
Yeah. No.
All right. So
Zach,
we got Dodge City being the wild, wild west. If you live in Southwest Kansas, there's no way you didn't hear about this, but we had to talk about it. All right, a man is dead and a woman is in the hospital after they were wanted in connection for the murders of 2 parents in Phoenix and ended up involved in a shootout with Kansas law enforcement on Monday morning. It began when Phoenix police officers were called out to a home near 51st Avenue on Warner Street, which is just north of Broadway Road, which just after 1 p.m. on Sunday, officers found 28-year-old Cameron Brown and 27-year-old Isa Ribble shot to death. The couple's 2 young children were found inside the home uninjured. Investigators said the man later identified as 39-year-old Leroy Malone, and the woman involved in the deaths fled out of the state and they were tracked down in Kansas.
Clark County Sheriff's Office found the couple driving a blue Toyota Tundra around 9 a.m. on Monday and tried to stop the truck, according to the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. Deputies tried to pull them over, but they drove off, and the KBI said, the KBI started a chase. The pair went into Ford County, where Ford County Sheriff's Office and Kansas Highway Patrol joined the pursuit. Investigators say detectives put down stop sticks to slow down the truck, and the FCSO deputy did a pit maneuver to force the truck into a ditch. Then a shootout happened, and Malone was hit multiple times. He died at the scene. The unidentified woman was taken to a hospital in Wichita, Kansas, in critical condition. 2 Ford County Sheriff's deputies were shot. One was taken to the Wichita hospital and is in the intensive care unit. The other had minor injuries and was released. A Clark County Sheriff's deputy was shot twice and is in serious condition at the Wichita hospital, KBI said. A KHP trooper was bit by a police canine during the shootout, and he underwent surgery. He's in good condition, and an investigation is underway.
Okay, you're muted. But
I believe all 3 police officers have been released and are at home recovering now, which is great news.
Yeah.
And the young lady that was the passenger in the vehicle is recovering, but is still being treated for serious issues. This is a wild story, started out in Phoenix.
Like literally the Wild West. It's the wildest of stories.
Yeah, and it was through the West too, Phoenix, Arizona, all the way up. Up Route 66 and this way, and got caught and in Kansas, you know,
Like,
they
I
could've got a
remember the
million
scene
ways,
in
Mexico.
Tombstone, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, and the video is graphic and horrific, and we did share it on our page. So if you want to see it, you can go find it. We decided not to share it here tonight. We just didn't find it necessary. But man, it is something else to behold. The amount of shots fired. You know, just the officers.
I think there was a
going down in the
bystander
very
that
beginning.
said he thought there was about 8 shots, and it's like, oh, there are many more than 8 shots.
Yeah.
There are 19 bullets, I think, in a clip for
It makes way more sense.
police officers, and I think, you know, there were 12 or 15 of them out there, and that all of them unloaded their clips. But I think in that same position and dealing with who that was, I would have done the same thing, and that's probably why I shouldn't be a cop. But it's a scary situation for everybody.
I'm a little bit anxious to hear about the situation in Phoenix, because I don't know that there's a report out on the crime that occurred there.
It was a young lady and her daughter. But anyhow, I don't know much more than that on the situation. So, Dodge
all
City.
I know is the dog's innocent, and leave him alone.
Yeah. So we have a viral Wednesday here. Over the weekend, we were tagged at a post concerning USD 457 and the busing system. Desiree Sanchez released a post that went viral, and we got everything backwards here tonight. This is the post. I'm sure many of you saw it. Basically, what happened here was she has a 5 and 6 year old. She has 5 and 6 year old children who ride the city school bus systems. Both of them have autism. One of the children fell asleep on a bus. The rest of the kids got dropped off. The young kid stayed on the bus. Bus driver got off, didn't report, didn't see this child, and the child was left on it for 5 or 6 hours on the bus. 5 hours, exactly. One of the younger child, the 5-year-old, the 6-year-old fell asleep. The 5-year-old was asked at school where the kid was, and he said, "Mom," you know, so he didn't really have a solid answer for school officials. They called, left a message for Mom. She didn't get to it later because she works. But another bus driver.
There was no voicemail left. Like I think she said
there was no voicemail
said that
left. That's
that that they usually leave.
She said they usually
voicemail
do.
Regarding what it was, and so. Instead of saying, "Hey, your son hasn't checked into the school today," and she says right at the top, I want to just say real quick, she was contemplating whether this is something she should share for a while now. We live in a small area. This stuff is hard to discuss sometimes because you don't want to make waves, and I know on our show I want to be really careful to make sure to say I would love to talk about awesome things that the district is doing lately, but this is literally child endangerment. And so what spurred from this conversation was other people's testimony of how often this occurs.
That's when it got a little bit worrisome. Like, if this is a one-off and the school offered to have a private van take these children because they're special needs in and get them to school, then, you know, that's a pretty good promise. But hearing that this has happened multiple times is worrisome. But I think this whole situation has the easiest solution if they just create a system where there's a QR code at the back of the bus, and the bus driver has to walk to the back of the bus, scan the QR code, and then they can clock out or whatever they do after they leave the bus. But you're not allowed to leave the bus until that QR code's scanned. And that forces them to make a sweep at the bus every time. I mean, it's 2023 now. These are simple solutions.
That system. I do believe they have that system.
Well, obviously, it's not working.
And they're not utilizing it.
How is this getting bypassed?
And it's not being managed, you know, obviously. There were several comments from other people that shared similar stories about a child being dropped off at home or not picked up from a certain place and left in one area, and kids walking down the highway. It exposed a real problem.
Dropped off closer to home, and they were told to get out of the bus.
Yeah,
in a non-drop
so
off area.
there are some serious issues that are happening down at the bus barn. I believe the school board called for an executive session. I think maybe it's tomorrow. So we know
These executive sessions are ridiculous, though, because the public doesn't get to know what's discussed.
Yeah, and these sure seem to be popping up when people want to talk about it. It's very frustrating.
When the public is really concerned, that's when they're like, "Hey, let's keep this private."
Yeah, look how many times this has happened already. So again, thank you for sharing, because if we're all, I do this myself. I have these conversations, and of course, my children are older now, and so a lot of times we conflict on what's appropriate to say something about or not, because it could, it could affect their school life in those situations. And so you do this back and forth, and then you're like, they do whatever they do to placate you as far as like, this is what we're going to change in the safety department. This is what we're going to enforce. And like, I think Desiree's problem in the first place was that they said sorry, but there was no action to change any of it.
The thing of it is, in January, when children are wearing coats and it's 30 degrees, it's uncomfortable, but that child's not going to die in that bus. Not in a few hours. If this was August, that child, this is a completely different story that we're having.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
So Whitney made the comment that they have to scan the backpack. I can see why that's a program that's being ditched then, because it's a little bit monotonous to have to scan every bag every time they're leaving, when that's 30, 40 kids at a time. It's a little bit. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm just saying these people aren't being paid a lot of money. They don't care. It needs to be something simple and effective. And I think walking to the back of the bus isn't that much to ask them to do at the end of every shift to make sure that there's nobody there. Now, if you're scanning every backpack, maybe this. If they were scanning the backpack, it should have alerted them that there's still a kid on the bus. So there's obviously a flaw in the technology that allows them to bypass it for some reason or another. So if you're allowed to bypass it and it's not simple and quick, they're going to bypass it every time.
Yes, great. I want to give the bus drivers the benefit of the doubt that there is some training issues, maybe, that there are programs that are supposed to enforce these things, that they're not paid enough.
Yeah, these are people making like $35,000 a year. It's not like they're making a killing so when you don't make enough money, your job isn't always your main priority. You're not trying to make sure you're doing the best job because you're worried about what bill you're going to pay next and how you're going to survive. And it's just human nature. It's not intentional, but
I want to bring up a comment I saw that I thought was pretty poignant, that if and maybe it was Desiree herself, I can't remember who ended up commenting, but like if that were me and I had been called and the authorities had been called on me because I left my child in my car for 5 hours, that is possibly a crime.
Oh yeah, you're going to jail for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
There you go. Thank you. Yes, that's right.
And the same thing though. This happened in January. It's a CPS and you have court and all of that stuff. If it happens in August, it's a completely different story because 5 hours in the car is death.
They have cameras on these buses. They have Wi-Fi on these buses.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
I mean, there should be a motion detector, maybe. I mean, yeah, there's so many things. Yes, yeah, they were autistic.
Right. I'm speaking out of my butthole here, but there, yes, you could have, I believe, like a stream with the camera to make sure that there's, at least that like there is technology for this. That's all I need.
And I did see some comments that people were saying, well, the mom should have been paying attention to her phone better and whatnot. Now, having had kids in the school system recently, and they're both in different things at this point, but the school contacts you a lot. For every sporting event, you get a phone call or an email.
There are automated messages.
Yeah, and it's constant. And so when you're at work and it's like the school cried wolf and bugged you 3 times a day, every day. And so, yeah, the one time that was super important, of course you didn't you're at work, and that's how you make a living. So
I've
that's going to be
also
primary
had
focus. If you don't
I
leave a
have my
voicemail,
I have the automated numbers saved on my phone, and sometimes they come in from a different school. So like
Mhm.
it's named on the school. So like sometimes something happens and the number's rerouted, so I don't necessarily have that exact number saved in my phone to know that it is from the district.
You
Yeah,
know, I don't
thanks,
know if I'd
Megan.
be comfortable.
Exactly.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if I'd want, your kid to be live streamed out. You know what I mean?
I don't mean for
There's
the
so
public to
many.
behold.
There's,
I mean for the
we're not
bus
even-
person
okay,
that's
yeah,
in charge
yeah,
of
right,
making
yeah.
sure there's no one on the bus.
Yeah, I guess right. Yeah, you have Facebook groups set up. I mean, gosh,
and
it
again,
could be done privately.
whatever
And-
solution is, it
yeah,
can't be some super
absolutely.
technology involving cameras and infrared and crap that we can't afford. But you can go to any QR code and just generate it, tape it to the back.
Yeah.
You can't clock out till that code is scanned. Period.
Yeah. And yeah,
They do that
there's
in
so many
church
things to be
nurseries,
done.
like
Yeah, there's. I hope that the Board
I'm
of
just-
Education sits down and talks about this and lines out, a safer program for our children, so we know everybody's safe and getting to where they're supposed to be.
We got
and
lucky
home,
this time.
we
And
did
we
get
get the
lucky this
chance to
time.
learn the lesson without things being detrimental. And if we seize it properly, it won't get to be something detrimental. If we don't,
And
next time we'll have a different
it's
story.
not so bad either. I don't think if the school district came out and said, "Hey, we screwed up today.
Sure.
This is what happened."
I
and this
would
is what we're gonna do
appreciate
to
that
fix
very
That's
it."
what they would
much,
teach their
but
kids
the-
to do.
yeah, but the
Yeah.
problem is that we don't know anything about these things, and I understand that not everybody gives consent for their situation to be put out in public, so it does take you making a post like this to but and that's exactly why I was appalled going through those things. I can't imagine the amount of stress. It's happened to me before, but we were in a different school district, and they handled it extremely appropriately. I was very impressed with how that worked off. And it was my child who walked onto a bus she wasn't supposed to be on and knew she wasn't. She was very small, and they responded immediately and totally appropriately. And so I was but it didn't surprise me that it took off the way it did, and that there was many other stories.
Right.
So we'll be keeping an eye on that and talking more about it. Before I move us on to our final subject for the night, to lead us in, Zach, do we have an update on Troy Unruh?
We don't have anything new. He's still serving on our city board. Still making financial decisions after pleading guilty to stealing. We do have a new mayor. We've made mention to her that we would like a comment on Troy. We've been invited to a board meeting.
It's a town hall.
Town hall.
Town hall, 7:00 on Tuesday.
Which is
City
for
council
public
meeting, that's what I'm
discussion,
wondering.
right?
It is
Yeah.
a town hall's for a public discussion with the city commission. And we hope that you will go to. This is your invite to be at the town hall meeting at 7 p.m. Garden City Commission meeting. I believe it's held in the electric building. I'm trying to think of the name of it on 8th Street.
Where you get your tags
Where you get your tags.
and registered vote.
Yep. And anyhow, Garden City Police Department dropped a comment on their page. Was it yesterday? I think it was just yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
And it spurred a little viral attention. It caught our attention. And it was in regards to fentanyl being in our community and the increase of deaths that we're seeing in our community alone. And had some tidbits
Overdoses.
Across.
Is it
about
fatalities
the
exactly or
city
overdoses?
administration. Overdoses. I'm sorry.
So the
So anyway,
health
the
system
post
and
did have-
and our department have said that they've seen an increase in these situations.
Yes. And we've seen an increase across the nation and everywhere else. It's being talked about everywhere. And in the post, they did have some misinformation, misleading information that really caught our attention. And Caitlin, can give a good rundown on where they got their numbers on what the number one cause of death.
Okay, yes. These things just
group.
get stuck in my brain, and I really have a hard time letting go of it until I have the answers of it. It'll be like a thing, and then I'll and then it spurs more questions type of situation. So if you don't know what we're talking about, it's on the Garden City Police Department's Facebook page, and they made a public service announcement, which I'm all for. And I'm even ironically grateful that occurred, because the PSA at least spurred a conversation so that information can be reconciled. And so there was commentary in there regarding okay, so I think it was like there's no way to detect fentanyl, I believe, was part of the...
When you back to the statistic before we go forward, the way they splice that statistic together.
Okay, so I believe what it states is that the age group of 17 to 46, that overdosing on fentanyl is now the leading cause of death in that age range. And so, yes, so they really had to take a lot of numbers to make that accurate. So not to dismiss that this is a growing problem, because I want to make sure that it's known that, this situation has spurred enough that basically what's happening is people are acquiring their drugs, and there is cross-contamination with fentanyl on these drugs. Either the people who are dealing drugs are packaging product, and it's very easy to cross-contaminate, or they're mixing the drugs with fentanyl because it's a higher high at a faster rate. And so in the medical field, the fentanyl is given in micro doses, and so it's very hard to offer a patient in a hospital an overdose. And I think the overdose rate is 2 milligrams in a body. And I know it's
not very much.
It isn't. And so so it can be very powerful. It ends up, okay, thank you. Yeah. So
and then they say there's no way to detect if there's
right.
fentanyl,
So the conversation was
that is the biggest correction.
Yes. So so you can test drugs with fentanyl strips, and in the state of Kansas, possessing fentanyl strips is a crime because it's considered drug paraphernalia. So instead of having, so to back up, if we're going to have a public service announcement, I would like to make sure that information is correct and that misinformation is not being spread, because that is dangerous. When people are scared of these things and don't understand how drugs work biologically or chemically, and then there's a lot of information being spread through fear, and then that puts people in the medical field, that makes their job harder, because now there's this demonized drug out there that is actually useful in the medical field. So a lot of things happen when we don't speak correctly about these things. So, so if you want to talk about the rest of what that spurred, as far as being able to help somebody who's during
so we are going Tuesday to speak about legalizing the fentanyl strips here in Finney County, and we really need you guys to be there with us and to support us. Not only us, but we want to be there to support you. And let's overwhelm them with community members saying, hey, we need to be like Wichita and offer these out. We need to stop these deaths. We need to we don't support drug use. We're not supporting rampant drug use. We're supporting safety. We're trying to save lives. And another part of that is Narcan. And Narcan is a drug that will save a person while they are overdosing. It's free. There's classes that you can take to administer this. Anybody can do it. You don't have to be a part of an organization. You don't have to be a doctor or nurse. You can be Joe selling donuts down the street, or me, or Zach, or Caitlin.
I think his name's Randy.
Joe Marino. Randy, yeah. Randy's Donuts down the street. So we shared the link on the page. We highly recommend that you check that out. We highly recommend that you carry Narcan, not only for your friends and loved ones that may be going through something, but a complete stranger. You can save somebody's life. You'll never know when someone's going to fall into your life and need this life-saving drug. So check that out. Get involved in the community. We're going to be dropping a lot more about fentanyl testing, and what it's doing in our community, and more tidbits about Narcan.
And at least decriminalizing items that help us with preventative or rehabilitative approaches to this thing. Like, the more that you legislate against addicts, which is opposed in science as the way to change that sort of problem, if we can't even make sure the right information is out there, but also as a community, we can start helping by, one, arming yourself with knowledge, and two, being willing to assist people who are in those situations, and have some empathy and compassion. And
I don't want to see another teenager in Garden City, die from fentanyl. So I would really hope that we would step up our prevention for our community and help. These fentanyl strips need to be handed out at pharmacies or Live Well, or and safe places for people to obtain these without judgment. And I think it needs to move forward pretty quickly. Wichita has the plan out already for us to follow, and guidelines that shouldn't be hard. This is something that should move forward pretty quickly, in my opinion, and I hope everybody else is.
I'm putting the link in the comments for where to get your free Narcan and be trained on how to use it. We had multiple people on the webpage already go ahead and order it. If you order one too because of this, let us know.
Yeah, we'd love to know that you're out there making a difference, and willing to help the community and love your neighbor, I guess you could say. So anyway, guys,
you don't need it.
You don't need
until
it.
you do.
You don't.
But the question is, when you do you have it?
Yeah. And it will expire, so you got to watch out for that as well. Well, anyway, guys, we really appreciate you joining us here tonight. It's the CKZ show. Find us. Please stop by buymeacoffee.com/CKZ show, and buy us a coffee and let us know that you appreciate what we're doing and you want us to be here and continue reporting on the world as we see it, and all the news here in Western Kansas affecting us. Guys, you have anything to say? Anything to close on before we go?
No, I think we had a great show tonight. Sorry Janene couldn't make it. I look forward to her interview hopefully next week. I don't know when we're going to get that rescheduled. That's Ken Steele.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kent.
Yes. Thank you for being the schedule manager. And I'm not the prepared one. I'm just the one that shows up and I yell and rant a little bit, and then I sign out and say goodnight.
Exactly. This is the toughest job that we have, and it's a free paying gig. It doesn't give us anything, and
we're the interns.
But we love it. We are the interns and the hosts and everything with the most. And
Greg, I'm sure Janene, it was a personal matter. Tonight, so we don't ask it if you can't make it.
We don't care.
You have a life, and we appreciate when you share it with us.
Yeah. Also, I think did we even
we
tell
tried that, and
we were going to have a show last week. I realized we were just too sick to comment. So that's what went down. So it happens to all of us, and us very frequently.
Yep, absolutely. Well, guys, thank you for tuning in tonight. We'll see you next Wednesday at 9 p.m. If you have anything you want us to talk about or share with us, please send us a message on our page. If you're more comfortable individually, want to be anonymous,
into our DMs and let us know.
Slide into our DMs and let us know what you want to talk about. And we've got a lot of anonymous sources out there, and a lot of stories we haven't talked about. And maybe one of these days we will. In some manner, but have a great night.
I was going to say, just real quick, to reiterate, if So we all participate in the communication on the page, the three of us do. And so if you would prefer to come forward with some anonymous information, any one of us individually, we do. I don't want to make it sound weird, but we are. We
don't even share information with each other.
Yes, we don't even share that information with each other. So if that's your preference, then we can accommodate you in that way, and yeah.
And it makes our job even tougher. It does, but we still want to know because I hear Caitlin can have someone message her and then she's relaying stuff to us and we're like, what? Nah, but she can't tell us who or why or from, and.
You might have a puzzle piece, and we've already been given some puzzle pieces, and so you're just helping us along, and it helps direct where we're focusing things on.
If we get 3 anonymous sources on one subject and the stories all match, that's enough for us to report on, and we want to be able to do that for you in the community. All right, guys. Thank you again so much
for joining us.
You all.
You guys have a great night.
Good evening. Bye.
Thank you. Twip, 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 twip. Night, true believers.
Well. Test. Better. We'll take a minute to envision it, in the vision we're ripping from a difference of opinion, inquisitive, isn't it? When the picture in the mirror isn't shit, but give it a minute, fix this image and hit the brick with the viciousness. But don't play, cause one day you'll be saying, you shoulda, coulda, woulda, but my shit it just wouldn't drop, cause you wouldn't hop, but you're so worried, it was your world. And when you hit them with the rhymes, they had no words. Just come back to the flip of the tongue fun that you once had and chuck it like a beer and crush that. Go shave your mustache and write it down, cut that, and so much rap again. Oh, I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call that. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show them what rap is again. Like taking a step out of your front door for the first time and you want more with the sunshine, but you've been locked away, forgetting you don't care. Listen, it's not part of the mission. Just say what you got to say. Whether it makes sense, just a bunch of gibberish, bit from the hip, slipping so sharp, and splitting your lip. You get a grip, cause as good as your shit is, you know it really isn't a big deal. Cause it'll turn heads bound too. It's your purpose, round 2. But you gotta open your eyes and realize it's right here. To open your mind, you gotta try to fight fear and find a light bright enough to ignite and excite peers. But get their attention, I find. You gotta give them a big boom. You're the few, and I got my lighter right here. Oh, I'm getting tired of that. I don't know anymore what they call that. Getting so you know that something's missing. Let's go show them what rap is again.